Ethan had only been at the Interspecies Academy for 2 months, and already he had learned one thing. Alien students could be more stubborn than humans, especially Zara. She was tall, elegant, and carried herself like the galaxy belonged to. Her family was from one of the oldest noble houses on her planet, and she made sure everyone knew it. Humans, she often said, were slow thinkers and clumsy with their hands. And Ethan, unfortunately, was her assigned lab partner that night. The science wing was almost empty. Most students had gone to the night market, but Ethan stayed behind to finish their joint biology project. Zara had insisted they work alone. She didn't like too many eyes on their experiment. They were testing rare bioorganic seeds recovered from a long-forgotten world. The seeds were kept in a temperature-controlled glass case. Glowing faintly with a golden light, Ethan didn't trust them. Something about the faint hum they made gave him chills, but Zara only smirked. Sing. Humans were easily spooked. You're mixing them wrong, she said, for the 3rd time that hour. Her voice dripping with impatience, Ethan clenched his jaw. I'm following the instructions exactly. You read too slow, she replied, leaning over to adjust the scanner. Their hands brushed for a second, and both pulled back quickly, as if touching each other was a crime. Then it happened. A sharp crack came from inside the glass case. One of the seeds pulsed brightly, like a tiny sun, before either of them could react. The glass shattered with a soft pop. A golden mist spilled into the room, swirling around them. It was warm, almost alive. Wrapping around Ethan's arms and Zara's face, Zara gasped, stumbling back. Get it off. Ethan grabbed a nearby fan to push the mist away, but it clung to them like it had a mind of its own. The alarm system stayed silent. No contamination warning, no emergency lights. That made Ethan's skin crawl even more. Zara coughed. Her eyes watering, the mist thinned, then vanished into the air as if it had never been there. For a moment, the lab was silent except for their breathing. Ethan looked at her. You okay? She didn't answer, only glared at him like it was his fault. They cleaned up the broken glass in silence. Zara refused to speak. Snatching her things and walking out without another word, Ethan shook his head. Maybe she'd finally had enough. Of working with a human, he didn't think much more about it until the next morning. A loud banging woke him in his dorm. Before he could even open his eyes fully, the door slid open with a hiss. Zara stood there. Her breathing fast, her eyes wide with anger and fear. Her hands were pressed to her stomach. What the hell have you done to me? She shouted, her voice echoing down the hall. Ethan sat up, confused. What are you talking about? She stepped closer, and that's when he saw it. Her belly, flat the night before, was now swollen as if she had been carrying something for weeks. It wasn't the normal shape of weight gain or overeating. It looked unnatural. What is that? He asked, his voice low. You tell me. She snapped. I woke up like this. I can feel it moving inside me. Ethan's stomach dropped. Moving. Yes. And it started after last night. Your stupid human hands touched me. Students were gathering at the doorway now, whispering. The rumors were already starting to form in their eyes. Ethan stood, holding up his hands. Zara, calm down. We need to get you to the medics. Don't tell me to calm down, she said, stepping back as if he were dangerous. Whatever is happening to me, it's because of you. The crowd's murmurs grew louder. Ethan's mind raced. There was no way the golden mist could cause this overnight, right? Still, something deep inside him knew the incident in the lab was no accident. Zara turned and stormed down the hall toward the medical wing. Ethan followed, ignoring the stares and whispered accusations. Every step made the tension grow heavier. By the time they reached the medics, half the dorm had seen her swollen belly. The alien doctor scanned her with strange humming devices. His frown deepened with every reading. Finally, he looked at both of them and said, "This is not an illness." "What do you mean?" Ethan asked. The doctor hesitated, his eyes flicking between them. "It's something else entirely," before Ethan could ask more. Zara grabbed his sleeve and hissed, "You're not leaving me until I get answers." Her grip was cold but strong in that moment. Ethan realized something. Whatever had started in that lab last night wasn't going to stop on its own. And now the whole academy was watching. By the next morning, Ethan could feel the weight of every stare in the academy halls. It was like walking through a silent storm. Groups of students stopped talking when he passed, their eyes drifting toward Zara's swollen stomach whenever she walked by. Even the human students seemed unsure how to treat him now. The whispers spread faster than light. Some claimed he had broken an unspoken alien law. Others said he had done something intimate during the experiment. None of it was true, but the truth didn't matter when gossip had already taken root. Zara didn't help. She refused to answer anyone's questions, and when pressed, she would simply glance toward Ethan, which only fueled the rumors more. Her pride wouldn't let her admit she didn't know what was happening. Instead, she clung to the idea that Ethan was somehow responsible. Ethan tried to keep his head down, but trouble seemed to follow wherever she went, and she made sure he was dragged into it every time. In the medical wing, the doctor had locked her files under high security. No one was allowed to view the results, except Zara herself. But Ethan had seen enough in the doctor's eyes to know that something in her body was growing, not like a child, not like a tumor, but something else entirely. When he asked her about the tests, she would cross her arms and look away. "If I tell you," she said once, "you'll think I'm weak. And I won't give you that satisfaction." The tension between them was sharp enough to cut air. But one thing was clear. She wasn't avoiding him. In fact, she sought him out, dragging him from his classes, making him walk beside her as if she was daring people to keep whispering. Ethan couldn't tell if it was because she wanted protection or because she wanted to keep her enemy close. Things turned worse when two senior alien students cornered Ethan in the empty corridor behind the flight simulator hall. They were taller, their eyes glowing faintly, and they blocked his path. "You will leave her," one of them said in a low voice. "Your kind should never be near someone of her bloodline." Ethan's fists tightened. "If you have a problem, talk to her. She will not talk to us while you're in her shadow." The other said, leaning closer, "Humans break easily. So here's a warning. Stay away, or you'll regret it." Ethan didn't reply. But he didn't move either. It wasn't bravery. Not exactly. It was something deeper. A refusal to be pushed aside like he didn't belong later that day. Zara found him in the library. She didn't sit down. She stood over him, her voice low. "They threatened you, didn't they?" Ethan didn't answer, just turned the page of his book. Her jaw tightened. "Good. Now you understand that whatever is happening to me is dangerous. You think I don't know that?" He said, finally meeting her gaze. "I saw your face. When the doctor gave you the results, you're scared." She froze, then looked away. Her voice dropped even lower. "It's not just fear. It's something I can feel inside me, something alive, and it's changing me." He leaned forward, his tone calm but serious. "Then stop playing games. Tell me what's happening." She hesitated, her pride and fear battling inside her eyes. Finally, she whispered, "The readings show energy, not flesh, not bone, just energy pooling in my body, building every hour." Ethan frowned. "Energy from what?" Her lips pressed into a thin line. "The doctor doesn't know, but he said it matches ancient bonding rituals from my people's past." Ethan's heart thudded. "Bonding? Like joining two people?" "Yes," she said, barely above a whisper. "And it only happens if the other person's essence is compatible." Silence stretched between them. Ethan's mind went back to the golden mist, the warmth that had wrapped around them, the way it had clung like it chose who it touched. If what she said was true, then this swelling wasn't just a random reaction, it was the result of something linking them in a way neither understood. And if the rumors about bonding rituals were true, then their connection might be impossible to break. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. Every sound in the dorm felt louder, every shadow sharper. He kept thinking about the look in Zara's eyes. Not just fear, but something else, something she didn't want to admit. Somewhere in the academy, whispers were turning into plans. And Ethan knew it was only a matter of time before someone tried to take her. When morning came, he found her already waiting outside his room. "We're going back to the lab," she said firmly. "We're going to find out exactly what those seeds were and why they chose us." Ethan stared at her for a moment, then nodded. He didn't know if it was because he wanted answers, or because he couldn't stand the thought of her facing this alone. Either way, the moment they stepped into the dimly lit lab again, he felt it, that same hum in the air, and somewhere deep in his bones, he knew they were about to wake something that should have stayed buried. The lab was colder than Ethan remembered. The air felt heavy, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. The glass case where the seeds had been was now empty, replaced by a sterile white cover marked with a red warning seal. Zara stood. In front of it, her arms crossed, her swollen belly outlined beneath her academy uniform. She didn't look at him when she spoke. "They took the remains of the seeds to the restricted archives. Then that's where we're going," Ethan said without hesitation. Her eyes flicked toward him. Surprised, but she didn't argue. They moved quickly, keeping two quiet corridors where no one lingered. The restricted archives were guarded by two drones, sleek metal bodies humming softly, their red sensors scanning the hall. Zara stepped back into the shadows. "You can't fight them," she whispered. "I'm not planning to," Ethan said, pulling a small device from his pocket. It was a basic signal jammer, something he had traded for back on Earth, useless for most things, but enough to disrupt a drone scanner for a few seconds. He triggered it, and the drones froze, their red lights flickering. "Move," he said. And they slipped through the door before the machines could reboot. Inside, the air smelled of dust and cold metal. Rows of sealed drawers stretched into the darkness, each marked with alien symbols that Ethan couldn't read. Zara moved with purpose, tracing her fingers along the labels. She stopped suddenly at a drawer near the end, her voice low. "Here," she keyed in a code, and the drawer slid open with a soft hiss. Inside was a single crystal container, and within it, one last golden seed. Pulsing faintly like a heartbeat, the light from the seed reflected in Zara's eyes, and for a moment she looked almost hypnotized. Ethan stepped closer. "Careful, it's calling to me," she whispered, her voice distant. "Don't touch it," he warned. But she didn't seem to hear him. The golden glow brightened as her hand neared the container. Ethan grabbed her wrist, pulling her back. And in that instant, the seed pulsed violently. A wave of golden energy burst out. Sweeping through the room, it wasn't just light, it was heat, memory, and emotion all at once. Ethan's vision blurred, and suddenly he wasn't in the archive anymore. He stood in a vast alien battlefield, the air filled with smoke and the cries of warriors. Beside him, Zara was there too, dressed in strange armor, her eyes burning with the same golden light as the seed. In the distance, massive creatures roared, their forms shifting like shadows. Made flesh, a voice deep, ancient, and impossible to locate echoed in his head. Two as one, bound by life, bound by battle. The vision snapped away, and Ethan stumbled back, gasping. Zara clutched her stomach, her face pale, but her eyes wide. "You saw it too," before he could answer. The sound of footsteps echoed from the corridor outside. They weren't drones, these were heavier, deliberate, Zara's eyes sharpened. They're coming for the seed. Ethan looked toward the container, the seed still pulsing, stronger. Now, without thinking, he grabbed it, the heat burning against his palm. Zara hissed, "Are you insane?" "They're not getting it," he said, slipping it into his jacket. The door slid open, and 3 figures stepped inside, alien enforcers in black armor, their visors glowing blue. "Step away from the drawer," one commanded, his voice metallic. Ethan's mind raced. They couldn't fight them here, not with Zara in her condition. He reached out, grabbing her hand, and pulled her toward the far exit. The enforcers moved fast. But the moment one tried to grab Ethan, a burst of golden energy exploded from him. The enforcer was thrown back like he had been hit by a force field. Ethan froze, looking down at his hand. It was still glowing faintly. Zara's expression was unreadable. But there was something in her gaze he hadn't seen before. Not just anger, not just suspicion, something that looked almost like recognition. As they ran down the dark corridor, the pulsing of the seed against Ethan's chest matched the rapid beat of his heart. He didn't know what had just happened, but deep down, he understood one thing. The connection between them was no accident, and whatever was growing inside her was waking up. The academy was quieter than usual when Ethan and Zara arrived in the lecture hall. A tall alien stood at the front, his silver hair shining under the soft lights. He was known as Professor Kale, a historian and expert in ancient alien rites. Zara's face tightened when she saw him. He was respected, but also feared for his strict ways. "Your situation is unusual," Kale began, his voice calm but serious. He turned to Zara. "This swelling is not illness, but a sign of an old power awakening." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "What kind of power?" Kale sighed. "In your people's past. A ritual bound to warrior souls to share strength and survival." He gestured toward a glowing hologram showing 2 alien figures linked by golden light. This ritual was rare, sacred, and dangerous. Kale warned, if not controlled, it could consume the host. Zara's pride faltered, and she looked down, rubbing her swollen belly. Ethan stepped closer. "Can it be stopped?" Kale shook his head. "Only by completing the ritual properly." The room was silent, except for Zara's quick breaths. Ethan felt her hand brush his sleeve, a quiet plea for help. That night, the academy felt like a trap. Every shadow seemed alive with watching eyes. Zara sat alone in the common room, her fingers tracing circles on her belly. Ethan sat beside her, unsure how to comfort a girl who refused to show weakness. "You scared?" he asked softly. She looked at him, eyes shining with something raw. "More than you know." The swelling pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat they could both feel. Ethan swallowed hard. "We'll figure this out," he promised, "together." But outside, danger was closing in. Unknown agents from distant worlds had caught wind of the rare phenomenon. They wanted the power Zara carried for themselves, no matter the cost. The academy's halls echoed with whispered warnings and secret meetings. Zara's guard lowered only when Ethan stayed by her side. His presence was a shield she didn't expect to need in the quiet hours before dawn. She whispered, "I don't know if I can do this without you." Ethan nodded. "You won't have to." As the first light crept through the windows, they prepared to face whatever came next: the ritual, the enemies, and the strange bond that tied them both together. Neither knew what the future held, but one thing was certain: their lives would never be the same again. The quiet night shattered like glass when alarms blared through the academy halls. Ethan woke to the sound of heavy footsteps pounding down the corridor. He scrambled out of bed, heart racing, and found Zara already at the door, eyes wide with fear. "They're here," she said, voice trembling. "They want the seed outside." Shadows moved fast and silent. slipping through the darkness like hunters, smugglers from distant planets, eager to capture Zara and take the energy inside her for profit. Ethan grabbed a makeshift weapon, a metal rod from the workshop, and stood ready. Zara's swollen belly pulsed softly, glowing faintly under her uniform. The first attacker lunged from the shadows, a tall figure cloaked in black. Ethan swung the rod with all his strength, catching the stranger across the chest. The thug stumbled back, but more came rushing forward, their eyes cold and hungry. Zara ducked behind Ethan, clutching his arm, her breathing sharp and quick. "Run!" Ethan shouted, pulling her toward the service tunnels. They slipped through narrow passages and hidden doors. The golden seed's warmth seemed to guide them, glowing stronger as they moved. But the pursuers were relentless, their footsteps echoing closer and closer at the tunnel's end. They burst into a forgotten storage room filled with old machines and crates. Ethan barred the heavy door, pressing his back against it as Zara leaned against him, her swollen belly pressed tight, but the pulsing glow flared suddenly. A wave of golden energy surged out, blasting the crates apart. The attackers outside stumbled back, shocked by the sudden force. Ethan looked at Zara in awe. "You're stronger than anyone thought." She smiled weakly. "It's not just me, it's the seed. The bond, whatever it is." His gaze hardened. "We can't keep running," she nodded. "We have to fight back, outside." More footsteps stormed the tunnels, but inside that small room, two unlikely allies prepared to face the darkness together. The swollen belly was no longer just a burden, it was a power, a promise of strength born from an impossible bond. The night grew deeper as Ethan and Zara sat surrounded by broken crates and scattered tools. The golden seed nestled safely in Ethan's jacket, its soft pulse matching the rhythm of their quickened breaths. Zara's swollen belly shimmered faintly in the dim light, a constant reminder of the strange power growing inside her. Ethan pulled out a small datapad he had stolen earlier from the restricted archives. He tapped the screen, bringing up an ancient holographic record. The images flickered to alien warriors, bound together by swirling golden light. The voice of an elder echoed from the recording. The bond of life and strength passed through blood and spirit. Zara's eyes widened as she watched the ritual unfold before them. "It's not a sickness or a curse," Ethan said softly. "It's a connection." She nodded slowly. "A joining of two beings to survive, to fight, to become more. But why us?" Ethan asked. "We barely get along." She smiled faintly. "That is the strange part. The bond chooses, not the heart." Suddenly, sharp pain shot through Zara's side, making her gasp. Ethan reached out, steadying her. "What is it?" "Waking up," she whispered. "The energy inside is trying to grow." The glow from her belly intensified, casting golden light across the walls. Ethan felt a strange warmth in his own chest, a pull that he couldn't explain. It was like something deep inside him was tied to her, moving with her. The datapad beeped suddenly. A warning message flashing on the screen. "Unregistered power detected," it read. "Potential threat level." High. Zara's expression turned serious. "They know about us now." Ethan clenched his fists. "We need a plan before they come for the bond itself." Together they studied the records, learning that the ritual had once been used to create warriors strong enough to face galaxy-wide wars. But the price was high. If the bond was broken, both beings could suffer, even die. Zara's hand found Ethan's, squeezing tightly. "We must see this through, no matter the cost." Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of her words. "We're in this together." Outside, beyond the walls of the academy, shadows stirred. The hunters were closer than ever, ready to claim the power growing between the human and the alien. But inside that small room, a new strength was rising. A bond forged in fear, trust, and something neither fully understood, yet the sun was just rising when Ethan and Zara stood at the edge of the Academy's training grounds. The golden light from Zara's swollen belly pulsed softly, like a heartbeat visible to all. Around them, the air was thick with tension. Students, guards, and strange figures from distant worlds had gathered. Everyone waited to see what would happen next. Ethan looked at Zara, her eyes shining with a mix of fear and determination. "This is it," he said quietly. "We have to finish the ritual, or none of this will end." She nodded, taking a deep breath. "I trust you," as they stepped forward. The golden energy around Zara grew stronger. The crowd held its breath as the ancient words from the datapad echoed in their minds. Two beings bound by life and spirit, joined not just in body, but in soul. Ethan reached out. Placing his hand gently on Zara's belly, a surge of warmth spread through him. Filling every part of his body, the golden light flared bright, wrapping around them both like a shield. Suddenly, the energy burst outward in a wave, pushing back the Watchers and clearing the ground inside that glow. Ethan and Zara felt themselves change. Their fears, their doubts melted away, replaced by a new strength, a unity neither had known before. They were no longer just human and alien, but one connected in ways deeper than words. When the light faded, Zara's belly was still swollen, but calm. The Watchers stared in awe, some whispering of miracles, others of ancient power reborn. Ethan squeezed Zara's hand. "We did it." She smiled, tears shining in her eyes. Together. The dangers were not gone. Enemies still lurked in the shadows, but now they had a bond stronger than any weapon, and a future that neither would face alone as they walked back into the Academy. Side by side, the whispers changed, from fear and doubt to respect and hope, the story of the swollen belly, the golden seed, and the unlikely pair would be told for generations. A reminder that sometimes the greatest power comes from the most unexpected bonds.